name is Crystal Harrison. I'm the Vice President of Product Strategy for Pivot3, and today I'm going to be talking about our hyperconverged solutions for the data center. Pivot3 has, within our hyperconverged portfolio, two different product sets. One focused on video surveillance solutions, and one focused on the data center. That's our Acuity product line, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Pivot3's key value proposition around our hyperconverged solutions in the data center are performance. We're going to be talking today about our policy-based, priority-aware, accelerated performance that we have built into our solutions, as well as our scale, being able to do that very predictively and very linearly, and being able to do that at very large scale as well. And our efficiencies, whether that's storage efficiency, compute efficiency, or our overhead operating efficiency. We're going to go through that today. The first key value proposition that I want to talk to today is around performance. So Acuity was designed from the ground up to be very architecturally different than the other hyperconverged vendors in this space. Our hyperconverged platform is really honed around performance, the architecture, and how we leverage performance within the system. We have taken and added NVMe to our nodes, which is the fastest, newest NAND technology on the market today. And we leverage that in a very different way. So it's used not only for caching, but it's also used as a persistent tier within the infrastructure. And so NVMe today gives us very low latency, it gives us extremely high IOPS, and 10 times the bandwidth that you'd get with traditional infrastructure. And so this allows for a broader workload consolidation and allows us to bring multiple mixed workloads of varying I/O types onto our system. Underneath the covers, we also have a distributed architecture. So within each node, you will find storage capacity within each node, and we will take and we will wide stripe data across all of the nodes in the system. This gives us the capability to scale performance as we add nodes. Every time I add a new node, I'm adding more bandwidth, more IOPS, and more capacity. On top of that, we've added our advanced quality of service policy-based management engine. This is very different in the industry than what you would expect from traditional quality of service, where you go and you just set limits. The system is extremely smart. It understands the I/O that's being sent to the system, and it will dynamically reallocate those resources across the system to guarantee that your mission-critical applications will get the performance that they need. And we do that by setting business policies or service levels agreements, SLAs, for those applications so that the system can prioritize those applications. We also do this, the quality service engine also manages the data placement across the system. As you heard me mention, with NVMe as a tier, spinning hard drives as a tier, SSDs as a tier, that data lives across all of those tiers within the system, and it has to be managed by the system. And so the system will take, according to the policies that you set, it will take and move data in real time across those different tiers within the system to guarantee the performance to the right applications. This advanced quality of service engine also has built into it data protection. So not only are we looking at performance, we're also looking at the criticality of that data and how you want it protected. How many times a day would you like to be able to recover? Is it every 4 hours? Is it every 2 hours? Is it every 30 minutes? Is it once a day? And you can set those policies within our QoS engine, and the system will manage and maintain those for you over time. Now here's an example of what I mean by consistent guaranteed performance. If you take a look at, say you had an order database that was mission critical to your business environment. This is the revenue generating database in your environment. And if you had gone and set, and you also have your test and dev environment living on the same environment. And if you had set these policies of mission critical, business critical, and non-critical to those applications, the system will let all of the applications run to whatever extent they need from a performance perspective, until there is contention for resources on the system. And once that happens, the system will automatically make sure that the mission critical applications get the performance that they need by dynamically moving those resources around, guaranteeing that your revenue generating applications or your business critical applications will always get the performance that they need. Architecturally, underneath the covers, we are also very different than most of the HCI vendors in the space today. Most vendors today will use replication or make copies of the data to protect the data. We come at it from a very different approach, and the reason we take this approach is because of the efficiencies that we get from erasure coding that we deploy in our systems. So erasure coding are the algorithms that we use to spread the data across all of the spindles in the system. And for those of you who might not be familiar with erasure coding, you can think of that as like RAID on steroids. It is a algorithm or a mathematical equation of how we lay out the data across all the spindles within the system. And because we're not making multiple copies of the data, we can use the capacity very efficiently. So within Acuity, you can write to up to 82% of the capacity that you buy. So if you bought 100 terabytes, you could write to 82 terabytes of that capacity. That's very different than a replication-based scenario where if you bought 100 terabytes, you could only write to 50 terabytes and have one level of protection. If you wanted to protect from 3 failures, you would be able to write to maybe 20% of that capacity. With our erasure coding, you can have up to 3 simultaneous failures within the system and still be 82% efficient. And we do this where you can even lose an entire node can go offline. And not only do you still have high levels of efficiency, you still have access to all the data, but we lose less than 10% of our performance for an entire node going out in the system. And as you scale the system, since it's a scale-out architecture, that can be as little as 5% performance impact for losing an entire node on the system. So very high levels of availability without having to compromise or sacrifice efficiency. Another key benefit of our solutions is the fact that we will integrate into your existing IT systems without having to be another silo in the infrastructure. So when you look at our system, it runs as a system or a cluster of nodes, and your virtual machines and your applications will run on those nodes. But if you have other servers in your environment, whether they're bare metal servers or another hypervisor, we can present storage from our system up to those existing servers, and we do that natively right out of the system. Another example is if you maybe have some legacy storage around in your environment that you no longer want to put maybe into production, or maybe you want to be able to still utilize that because you're not quite ready to end of life it, you can take and present storage up to VMs that live within the Pivot3 system. So we're able to natively integrate into the data center without having to have any caveats, without having to add any additional infrastructure to the system. Now, because of all of the smarts and intelligence built in with our quality of service and our policy-based management, and because of the performance that we get from NVMe, we're able to consolidate into our platform multiple mixed workloads of varying workload types, from small block random all the way up to large block sequential. All of those can live and play nicely on a single infrastructure with Pivot3. And you'll see down here on this side where we start getting into high volume IoT apps, big data analytics, very storage rich environments. These are places where Pivot3 plays really nicely because of that storage efficiency that we have. So this, when you go back to the list of use cases that customers want to deploy in the data center, you can see that Pivot3 can manage all of those use cases. Now we talk about performance quite a bit, so let's talk a little bit about hyperconvergence and how we're a leader by the numbers. In some head-to-head testing that we did with major competitors in this space, We were able to get a third of the latency of our competitors, and that's due to that NVMe flash tier that we have in our systems. We had 6 times the overall performance of our biggest competitor, and we were able to deliver 9 times the number of packets at sub-millisecond latency. This all means that your customers are able to manage response times. You don't have to worry about applications having performance during contention areas, and it gives you the ability to consolidate those mixed workloads onto a single platform. Scalability is the other area that we are known for. Because of the performance that we get within our system and the low overhead and the high storage efficiency that we have, we're generally able to get 2 to 3 times the number of virtual machines per node as our competitors, and that will lead to density. When you look at work that Gartner and Forrester did earlier this year, they talked about when they evaluated all the hyperconverged vendors that were in the space, they found that Pivot3 had the largest HCI deployments in the industry, with one of our largest ones being in the 15 petabyte range and over 500 nodes. And you can see from a density perspective, we have a customer who was able to get 3,400 knowledge users from a virtual desktop perspective in 18U. So extreme density and extreme scalability in our platforms. And efficiency. With Acuity, up to 82% usable capacity. You can use almost every piece of storage that you buy. 89% of your performance is maintained when you have, and that's during degraded mode, when you have a failure of a node, and that's with a 3-node cluster. As that scales, that performance impact goes down. And less than 8% operating overhead for our storage operations. So performance, scalability, and efficiency, these are things that we are known for, and that's part of the key Pivot3 value proposition. Now, all of the things that I talked about today are built into the Pivot3 infrastructure. So when you buy Pivot3 software or Pivot3 appliance, it comes with all the feature sets that we talked about today included. So it's an all-inclusive feature set, all of the quality of service, the scheduling capabilities, the policy-based management, that's all built into the system. Architected for performance, all of the NVMe, all of the scale-out storage, the wide striping that we do, all of that is built in. And then there's a complete set of data services that we didn't go in today, but doing things like snapshotting and cloning and replication, application integration so that you've got guaranteed points of recovery, data reduction and then provisioning, all built into the system to further that efficiency story. And then phone home monitoring and all of the management capabilities you would expect through vCenter. So an all-inclusive feature set. And we allow your customers to buy or consume as it makes the most sense for them. You can buy an appliance from us, you can buy software only from us and have the customer bring their own hardware. You can buy ELAs, and we also have the ability to do capacity on demand as well. So very flexible, and we don't nickel and dime our customers for every feature set. It also gives them investment protection because all the future features that we might roll out will be available on these platforms at no cost. So businesses will succeed today with Pivot3 because we're architected for performance. That means faster application response times. It's business priority aware, so we're going to meet the performance and the data protection SLAs that customers want. And it's simple policy-based management, which will reduce the cost and complexity of deploying infrastructure. Thank you for your time today.